Right then, I don't know if this is on. I don't know if I'm speaking to anybody. However, we shall just go for it, I guess. So, I'm here. I should be able to be seen. I should be able to be heard. But here we are. It is nearly midday on this, the 4th of June, 2024. And Nigel Farage, that rapscallion, that scallywag, that architect of Brexit, perhaps, has decided to take the helm, take the lead, take control, if you will, of Reform UK, a weirdly set up party where the majority stakeholder, limited company perhaps, Nigel Farage, can just arbitrarily do that without a vote and make his, is it 7th or 8th bid for Parliament? So he's running for MP in Clacton on Sea in Essex. I'm seeing if there's going to be a live stream of his launch. I imagine even if there's not, he's going to say much the same as what he said last night at the Reform UK press conference, which was covered by John. But what I can say is this: they've done it already. They've put out a poster. This is from Reform UK just 5 minutes ago. Don't know if you can see it here. It's a load of people looking into a house. Immigration isn't working. ONS 14 million will arrive in the next 12 years. They're calling it the immigration election. I'm not going to lie to you. I don't believe that this was originally the immigration election. I think it's now going to become the immigration election because that's exactly what Nigel Farage wants. And Nigel Farage seems to have weird sway and power in this election cycle. But last night he did say something that I really thought was kind of refreshing for a so-called politician. He said, and I quote, "This election is over. Reform UK, the party that he's taken over and he's standing for, can't win." He said Labour are the victors of this election. And I think we all know that right now. And the thing that annoys me, and I don't get why they're not saying it, is that a vote for reform in this current system, in this first past the post system, is a vote for Labour. Because all it does is split the so-called right-wing vote. Nigel's confident he might actually win a seat this time. We shall see. But he says he's taken control of the party for the next 5 years. So he is all in on politicking. I can see a picture here from Ben Riley Smith on X, who says, "Here's the crowd awaiting Nigel Farage at Clacton Pier. We're told he may be speaking from the top of a bus." Well, there's the crowd. Have we seen any live streams yet? Because I am looking to see some live streams. I want to hear what the man has to say. So if there's anybody there that's got a link to a live stream, I would appreciate that. Just chuck it in the chat and we'll take a look. I am keeping an eye on the YouTubes, see if he puts something on his channel, but so far no good. Which is a bit annoying, because if you're going to launch your campaign, you want it to be live, you want people to see it, surely, because he's not just launching his campaign as a local politician there in Clacton. He's also launching his campaign as the leader of a party that he presumably wants to stand, not in this election cycle, but in perhaps the next election cycle, as the opposition. He's weirdly confident. I will say that. He is weirdly confident. But why now? Why has he decided, when just a week ago he said he didn't want to do this, he didn't want to stand again? Why has he taken control now? Is it because he was about to get sacked from his job at GB News, probably, and he had nothing else to do? Is it because he really does want to cause an upset? Or is it because he really just thinks, you know what, this really is about immigration, this election, and I am the man to talk about it? Honestly, I don't know. But what I do know is that he is going to be the headline. He is going to be the wall-to-wall coverage. Perhaps not for broadcasters, because there are some new Ofcom guidelines. There are some new Ofcom guidelines that make it very interesting in during elections how parties are covered. And under these new guidelines, Reform UK in the broadcasting sector are going to get a lot less coverage than they would have. However, those guidelines don't apply to print news. So in newspapers and the like, Mr. Farage will probably get a lot more coverage. But then we have the debates. And now, I have no idea why we have debates in this country. For the heads of the parties go and debate, I believe. Even Plaid Cymru is turning up to this round of debates coming up. As John said so lovingly on his show yesterday, who's Plaid? Well, Plaid Cymru are the party of Wales. They are an extreme minority party, and why they are debating in a nationwide or a Great Britain-wide election campaign, it doesn't make much sense because they're not standing outside of Wales. Same as the SNP. Why are the SNP, well, your guess is as good as mine. People will say because they elect MPs to Westminster. Yes, they do. But what they have to say has no bearing on you or me here in England, or what the SNP has to say has no bearing on Wales, has no bearing on Northern Ireland. It has bearing on Scotland, and Scotland are going to vote them out, I would imagine. But that's just me. I am still continuing to look here because it would be nice to hear what he has to say. But if we can't see anything live, then what I'll do is I'll look at some of the clips of him this morning, because he's been on like BBC Breakfast TV and the likes this morning. Wow, my camera is screwing up. Don't even know why. Should I? Oh no, that's better. That's better. I've just turned the fan to face the computer rather than me. The weak UK Nigel Farage's announcement that he will lead Reform UK into the upcoming general election is Rishi Sunak's worst nightmare come true, said Tom Peck from The Week. Should we have a look over this? Let's have a look over this. Right, so this is for... I need to... Look, I don't care about your privacy. So this is from The Week. It says, Nigel Farage's return is a nightmare for Sunak. Wow, look at my bitrate. Terrible. I don't know what's going on there. I'm gonna have to empty out my computer. I think I'm just changing some stuff. Are you gonna let me change some stuff? Yeah, there we go. This could make it way worse. Let's do that. Yep, well, Nigel Farage's return is nightmare for Sunak. Farage to lead Reform UK and run for Parliament. But even without election victory, party will put pressure on the Tories' will. This is the thing I want to know. And if you want to get in the chat, get in the chat. If you want to get in the comments after the fact, get in the comments. Is he that much of a danger to the Tories? Because yes, he's going to split the right-wing vote. He absolutely is going to split the right-wing vote and guarantee a Labour victory. And that's why he came up on stage yesterday, and he was very honest about it. He said, yes, Labour have won this election, especially if they stand candidates. And he also did make a point. He said, we stood down candidates at the last election to make sure that Rishi, or I say Rishi, but Boris could win. They did do that. And perhaps he's just pissed that they didn't, I don't know, make him a lord or something. Let's read this anyway. This is from The Week. It says, Nigel Farage's announcement that he will lead Reform UK into the upcoming general election is Rishi Sunak's worst nightmare come true, said the Times political sketch writer Tom Peck. At an emergency general election announcement press conference in London yesterday, Richard Tice, Reform's leader since 2021, revealed that he would be handing the reins to Farage. No. Farage is the majority stakeholder shareholder in Reform UK Limited. He just took the reins. There's a big difference. who will also be running as the party's candidate in Clacton. A buoyant Farage then took to the stage, popping out of the darkness like a clockwork jack. Where do they come up with this crap? For a bullish victory speech in which he claimed the Conservatives were on the verge of total collapse and laid down the welcome mat for Tory defectors. Now, on that point, I think he's absolutely correct. The Conservative Party are on the verge of total collapse. Philman says he's not splitting the right-wing vote because the cons are no longer right-wing. Actually, I will respond to that, because whilst the Conservative Party is not right-wing, okay, and I know that you get the screeches on X, on Twitter, saying, oh my God, they're so far right. They're not. They're not right-wing, not in the slightest. However, many voters, regardless of whether or not they are right-wing, will vote Conservative, and that's because that's the way the system is set up. The system is set up first past the post. You either got left or right, as they like to describe themselves, and I would say that you're correct. The Tory party are not at all right-wing, but the right-wing vote will go for them because they're the only ones that technically could get past the post in the current system. That's the way it works. So once you split that vote down the middle and you go, well, you're going to have the diehards that couldn't care less what a Tory did. As long as it's blue, they're voting for it. They're going to continue to vote Conservative. And then you're going to get the people that have become completely disenfranchised with them. They might vote Labour as a protest vote, but they're predominantly, and I see a lot of public, I see a lot of public support on social media for Reform UK. I see it on Twitter. I see it over on TikTok. I see it over on Facebook. I'm not saying it's not there, because it very much is. But they can't win. And they know that they can't win. And they know that splitting the Tory vote down the middle, because if we look at the latest polls, that's pretty much what they're suggesting could happen here. They're gonna ensure a Labour victory, which I guess suits Farage, because then he can say, look how much worse they've made it, become the actual opposition. I see where he's coming from, right? I absolutely see where he's coming from. And I see the game plan. But I think maybe his announcement is too late in the game. Because the election's in, 5-6 weeks? It's not long to campaign. It really isn't. But hey, let's continue with this. And if anybody in the chat sees a live stream, then please chuck it over. I want to see what Nigel Farage has got to say. I want to see what he has to say. Because John covered it yesterday at the press conference. I was unable to come along. And I imagine he is going to say much of the same, right? He's going to say much of the same. But I don't know. I don't know. I just want to know why now. Does he believe, like I asked earlier, does he believe that he was wronged by the Conservatives when he stood candidates down in order to lead the path for Boris Johnson? Because let's face it, Boris Johnson, I call them the red Tories and blue Labour, because Boris Johnson is not really a right-wing guy. Well, they're all bloody socialists these days, aren't they? They're all bloody champagne socialists. They all seem to want to... I'm not a very good morning person, just to forewarn you. But they all seem to want to feather their own nest and control the population. It doesn't matter if they're red. It doesn't matter if they're blue. There's a little bit of a statement that we've made on this show for years. The primary aims of politicians, of government, is to feather your own nest and control the population. And in my mind, nothing changes when you hand the baton from the blue side of the Uniparty to the red side of the Uniparty. And perhaps Nigel Farage, love him or hate him, perhaps he sees the same thing. Perhaps he sees the uniparty, as we like to call it here, as no longer viable, and he believes he is the only way to break that cycle. Because let's face it, when Labour take charge next month, and they will, when Labour take charge next month, for you, me, the working class people, the people who don't have a pot to piss in, nothing is going to get better. Nothing is going to get better. In fact, it's probably going to get worse. Let me just call it as it is. Labour used to be, at least, modelling themselves as the party of the working class. You know, you had... It was always the working class that voted for Labour. It was, you know, people that worked in the mines and all of those communities that were heavy Labour voters. But Labour these days are that Labour, or at least that illusion of what Labour claim to be, in name only. They are the middle class to upper class party of high taxes, of screwing the little guy. You don't see... So Steve on X says, Clacton has been ignored by government agencies. I believe there's so much potential to rebuild a great community. And you know what? Personally speaking, I want to come to Clacton. I do. I want to come to Clacton, and I want to take a look around, and I want to go on the pier, and I want to make a video, and I'm hoping to do that at some point this summer. Hoping to come along and, you know, have a good day out, at the very least. And I agree, because Jaywick, just up the road, is probably the most neglected town in Great Britain. It's one of the poorest towns in Great Britain, and I see them punting for Farage. I do. I see Clacton... Do I see him winning? I can't say at this point. I can't say at this point. But I see that he's probably got a bloody good chance. I do. I think he's got a bloody good chance. I think he's picked that constituency for a reason. I think that obviously they've done the data, they've run the numbers, and Reform have a good chance there, because they're only going to stand their leader somewhere where they think their leader might win. So Clacton it is, I guess. Maybe he does get in. Now I'm seeing a lot of people also suggesting that he's doing this, and this is a grand conspiracy that I I don't know, okay? But they're saying he's doing this so that he can then defect to the Tories once he's got a seat in Parliament, and then be basically installed as the leader of the Conservative Party. But then why would he needed to have taken charge of Reform? He could have just stood. He didn't need to take charge of Reform. Unless part of this grand conspiracy is once he's installed as a Conservative leader, he can then move all Reform into this new version of the Tories. I think it's a load of bollocks. I do. I think it's a load of bollocks. I genuinely believe that, well, he could be doing that, but I doubt it. I highly doubt it. But yeah, these communities, Jaywick, Clacton, I understand where Steve is coming from over on Twitter, because they are neglected communities. People have been left to rot, essentially, in these communities by these parties. And it's not just the Tories that did that. Because before the Tories took control, nothing was really different. And when Labour take the baton, because I won't say they win, because, once again, uniparty, but when Labour take the baton, I believe firmly that nothing will change. Nothing will get better, especially for the working class, because you don't see people from working classes having these massive campaigns and excitement for this current iteration of what calls itself Labour. It's people like Owen Jones. I mean, Owen Jones, I think, is campaigning against Labour at the moment, personally, but it's people in that ilk of society. It's middle class. It can afford, you know, flats in London, can afford rents or even mortgages in London, can afford to go out and have their socials in central London every night and not really worry about the bills. It's not the people who are wondering and struggling like me how I'm going to pay my electricity bill every month, because they're not going to make it better. Let's just talk about Great British Energy for a second. We spoke about it on Friday night, but it's not even an electricity company. You will not be able... Labour are calling for this Great British Energy, but you're not going to be able to get any energy from it. It's an investment of our money into stupid renewable electricity, and it is stupid, but we're not going to be able to take any energy from that grid. So it's not an electricity company. It's simply a UK-owned investment. What good does that do for you, me, or anybody else in the short term? How does that solve our bills in the short term? It doesn't. And maybe Nigel Farage is going to tap into all of this. Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. But what I do know is that currently we have a system where the uniparty dominates, the uniparty is able to dictate, and on the major issues, they don't really diverge, do they? Look, let's look at all of the lockdowns. They voted together in those. Heavily damaging, heavily destructive, voted in lockstep. There's not really an issue apart from Rwanda where they divest, where they diverge, because they are essentially the same thing. Keir Starmer's a red Tory, Rishi Sunak is blue Labour. It's all the same. So maybe this is a case of Nigel trying to shake that up. I just don't know. I mean, I don't know about you. Oh, hold on. Hold on. We might actually have something here. Hold on a minute. There seems to be a live stream from Resistance GB, Willsey, on Clacton. It's been going for like 50 minutes. I want to get to the point where Nigel actually turns up. There it is. Right, so here's what Nigel had to say. We can actually watch it live. Right, here we go. Right. There we go. So this was Nigel live on Clacton Pier via Resistance GB, Willsey. Can you guys hear that?
Thank you for coming. Thank you for coming.
I hope you can.
Can you hear me?
So this happened 15 minutes ago, but we'll listen to what he has to say, and we'll...
Thank you so much for coming. It's absolutely outstanding.
Richard Tice.
What a roar. What an opportunity.
See, the thing about Richard Tice is he is universally hated. Nobody liked Richard Tice.
Are you going to vote for Rishi
I think that much we can all agree on.
Are you going to vote for my very good friend, the one and only Nigel Farage? Fantastic. Well, if you do, and if you spread the word, may I introduce you to what I hope will be the next Member of Parliament for the fantastic constituency of Clacton!
And then that's Richard Tice going, oh, I never have to come back here again! And he's off. He's off. And here's Nigel.
Hello, Clacton!
If you can hear him, just give me like a thumbs up in the chat.
Everybody, it's fantastic to be back here. This place played a pivotal role back in 2014. And it got us, Without Clacton, Brexit would not have happened. So thank you, Clacton.
So that makes sense.
And I campaigned here with Douglas Carswell, your MP. And in the end, we made an offer to the British people. We could get back our independence and control of our borders. But what has happened? The Conservatives have betrayed that trust.
Did they?
They've opened up the borders
did they even...
to mass immigration like we've never seen before.
Did anybody think they would do otherwise,
and they deserve to pay a price for that. A big price for that. As for Labour, well, I've got no confidence. that they'll reduce the numbers coming in either.
Well, I don't think anybody has any
problem?
confidence that they'll reduce the numbers.
These people, unlike you in Clacton,
I don't think anybody has that
they're
confidence.
not genuinely patriotic people. They don't believe in Britain and the British people the way you do. But am I right in thinking?
See, they're kind of buzzwords,
is this not the
right?
most patriotic town in the whole of our country? And we're gathered here as one Clacton resident. He's on his way across the English Channel. He's 98, and he's joining 25 other British veterans, 80 years to the day that we put together with the Americans and indeed the Canadians, that incredible operation that liberated Europe. Is that something that we're all proud of?
Well, of course, but what does this have to do with today's election, or this year's election?
That over 50% of 18 to 34-year-olds have never even heard of D-Day. It is a complete failure.
Well, that's pretty ridiculous, to be honest. That is pretty ridiculous.
It is as if we're telling our youngsters to be
that's
ashamed of our
true.
past and not proud of our past. And this has happened under Labour and Conservative governments. And
The Uniparty, as I just described them.
Voices in Westminster that truly believe in Britain, do not want the minds of our kids being poisoned, and to tell them that actually they should be proud of this country, proud to be British, and optimistic about the future.
Well, I think those sentiments are great. We should be proud to be British. We should be proud of our country.
I can promise you that I do know one thing, that a woman can't have a penis. Okay?
But what does that have to do with the election? I mean, it is funny.
You won't get any woke PC nonsense from me, because I've always told it as it is, stood up for what I believed in, and in over 20 years in the European Parliament,
great. I wasn't going to vote this general election, but yesterday I applied for my voting certificate and I will vote reform.
I can tell you after 20 years
like I said, there's a lot of online buzz for this.
Much more than they did. But wouldn't it be nice if we had people in Parliament in our country standing up for the majority view, standing up for the silent majority, unafraid to call it out? And it's going to need to happen. It's going to need to happen.
See, I agree. Your parliamentarians do not stand up for you. They stand up for nothing.
Breach of trust from the Conservatives means they're finished.
They stand up for themselves.
We are going to get a Labour government, whether you like it or not.
This is what I like. I like this honesty. I like this.
The question is, who is going to be the voice of opposition? Who is going to be the voice of opposition?
Well, thanks to the first past the post system, it will be the Conservatives.
With me at the helm to be in Parliament, and I promise you,
reform
I'll line it up a lot for what it currently
may well get a few seats. They have so much online, there's so much online fun, and that's great.
Now, my visits to Clacton have been regular. So regular that some people think I'm actually part of the spoons up the top there.
I mean, you probably
It's not true, but I'll make you a promise, it will be before too long. We are here as a party to stand up for the little guy, to stand up for the little woman. We've had enough of government.
These are the words that people want to hear.
Big businesses who will willfully...
Yes, Colin, you're absolutely correct there with Starmer.
Undercutting British workers.
You're absolutely correct.
We want to get British people back to work. We want small business to be given the chance to flourish, as opposed to being punished as it is by government after government.
I agree with that.
And my record is I take on the European Union. I take on the banking establishment.
Wasn't he part of the banking establishment?
And what I will do if you give me the honour of being your Member of Parliament, I will stand up and fight for people. I will stand up and fight for small businesses against the regulators. I will stand up and fight for people to get their rights. I will stand up and fight to make sure that schools are not poisoning the minds of your children and grandchildren.
See, these are things I know that people really do want to hear.
I've made a big commitment to do this.
I've
got to tell you, my life in the last couple of years has really been pretty easy. I've loved being at GB News. I've loved the things that I do. How many GB News fans here?
So he's done with GB News.
But I'm making
what we're getting from this.
That I will spend a considerable amount of my time in this constituency with you, fighting for those who don't have their own voice, fighting for those who've been downtrodden. And I hope that having a national figure representing this constituency will put Clacton on the map. No longer.
Like I said earlier, Clacton, Jaywick, very ignored communities.
No longer will you be ignored. And I hope and believe that I can help get investment coming in to this constituency, which will bring jobs, and hopefully well-paid jobs. So I will stand up and fight for you. I will give you of my best, and I'll do what I've done for the last quarter of a century in politics. I will be unafraid, despite what everybody says, despite what names they call me.
Oh, they've called him names for years.
It only encourages me, really. In fact, send me to Parliament to be a bloody nuisance.
Patrick, I am a 35-year-old man with children who's been through the ringer. I've lived under a peer. I'm working class. I live in a council house.
Today. He kept this going. And I'm thrilled that he did it.
I've struggled and struggled and struggled through life. I'm not saying that I know everything.
For coming along this morning in such unbelievable numbers. Always risky doing an outdoor event.
No, don't. And mostly we're an entertainment. We like to entertain people.
I want to ask this of you.
But
coming along, enjoying the circus, agreeing with me.
I mean, it is a circus, isn't it?
Agreeing with me.
It is a circus.
Is one thing. But what we need is to reactivate a people's army. A people's army against the establishment. A people's army who want to get this country back on track. A people's army who want to be represented by people who think like they do. So let me ask you, will you commit? Will you commit to do your bit? Will you commit to help? Will you commit to go out there, deliver leaflets, put up posters, do all that? If you commit to help me in this campaign, put your hands up now. I didn't know 3 days ago that I was going to be here doing this. My big thanks.
Yeah, the stream should be back on now.
Tony was going to stand for reform in this constituency. He has very gracefully stood aside.
He didn't have a choice to stand aside.
And he's going to play a big, key, leading role in this campaign. Let's save Clacton and save Britain. Save Clacton and save Britain, says Tony.
Sebastian says, I don't think Reform UK will win. I just want to break the Conservative Party and hopefully replace them as the opposition party. Well, I don't think that will happen in this election cycle.
We want to win this. We want to win it big. We want Reform to win many seats in this Parliament. Let's be the opposition to a Keir Starmer Labour government that doesn't share the same values that you do here in Clacton. I'm honoured to have this opportunity. I genuinely believed that my career in public life was over. But as I look around me,
until he decided it wasn't.
As I look around me and see the state our country's in, we're in social decline. Just look at crime on the streets.
I mean, these are all good points that people really do.
And you know what? Nothing works anymore, does it? You can't get a GP appointment. The roads are clogged. Nothing works anymore. And actually, a Labour government won't make any real changes at all.
Exactly what I said before we found him speaking.
We need braver politicians to stand
They're
up
not
for
going to
us
make a
and
difference.
represent
Nothing
us.
will
And if you help
change
me,
under
as
Labour.
you promised you would,
In fact,
we
the
will,
direction of travel
on
will
July
likely get worse. But that doesn't mean that the Tories...
to be here. I'm flattered by your reception.
It doesn't mean
I promise
that the Tories would have been any better.
Do my best. Thank you.
Okay, so that was Nigel there in Clacton launching his campaign officially to be their MP. Do we think he will win, or do we think do we think it will be another? Is it the 7th or 8th time he has run? I think he's lost 7, so this would be number 8. Now, I'm not criticising him, and I am not endorsing him. I am simply covering this and asking questions and giving observations. And my observation is that he's correct in a lot of what he says, but he's also correct that we've got a Labour government incoming. We've got a Labour government incoming. It's happening, and that can't be good for us. It can't. I think we're going to analyse this and much more over the course of the week. John might be live this evening. I'm not sure. But we'll definitely be live on Friday discussing this and so much more with All In. So if you haven't clicked subscribe to the channel, please do. And we'll have a laugh then on Friday night. But I can't wait for the debates because we're going to stream. We're going to stream the debates. Oh, yes, we will laugh at the debates. I don't, like I said before Nigel there, I don't know why we have debates because we don't vote for leaders in this country. We don't vote for a prime minister. That's not the way our system works. We vote for a local MP, and then the party with the most MPs, the first past the post, gets to put their party leader in the prime ministerial position. So why we have prime ministerial debates, it's just an Americanized thing, isn't it? It's circus. It's theatre. But I tell you what, it's happening whether we like it or not. So we will laugh at it. Yes, we will. Before people ask, no, I do not support Labour. I do not support the Tories. I don't think I support any political party at the moment because none of them represent me. None of them represent my views. And I know a lot of people are feeling the same. So perhaps Nigel is trying to scoop those people up. And as I said, there is a lot of online buzz for Reform UK. It's there. People are going to vote for them in their millions. But will that result in seats in Parliament or a large voice in opposition? You decide, and we'll be back Friday night for sure at 9 p.m. UK time to discuss this further, dig in, laugh, and if you've enjoyed it, don't forget, like the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and of course, you can support us further by becoming a patron at patreon.com/chasing dissent or Ko-fi, ko-fi .chase.com/chasing dissent, or right here on the channel you can become a channel member from just 99 pence a month to help us go further. Nobody has to. We're hoping that people just come along for the ride and come along for the laugh, because right now the world is burning. There's not much I can do to change it, and we've got we've got two choices. We can either despair or we can laugh, light a cigar, and watch. So on that note, thank you for joining me, boys and girls. I will be going now, and we'll speak to you real soon. Bye for now.